Tonight on Lead Story, Kingston Public Hospital and the Bustamante Hospital for Children have their operating theatres offline again. The opposition is calling the government's response a pattern of patch jobs and public relations. We'll speak with the PMP's Dr. Alfred Dawes, opposition spokesman, about that. Also tonight, the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation has collected less than 15% of what it is owed in outstanding signage fees. CEO Robert Hill joins us on what comes next. And the billboards that stopped Jamaica in its tracks left many citizens with their mouths wide open. We'll also wade through the 3 beach access cases that are before the courts this week. JABM President Dr. Devon Taylor is here on what is at stake for Jamaicans and the coastline. And big things, the FIFA World Cup is here. The Knicks are champions. Sir Lewis Hamilton has finally won for Ferrari, and the West Indies secured a hard-fought 5-wicket victory to claim the series 2-1. It's been a weekend in sport like few others. Today, we look at the state of play. I'm Jodie Ann Quarry, and this is Lead Story. Good evening. Before we begin tonight's Lead Story, pauses to acknowledge the Jamaica Constabulary Force, which is mourning the loss of 2 of its own this weekend. Constable Michael Francis of the Maroon Town Police Station in St. James and District Constable Nicholas McLean of the Constant Spring Police Station have both passed. 3 other officers were injured in a road collision at Discovery Bay. We extend our condolences to their families, their colleagues, and the wider Jamaica Constabulary Force. Now, to 2 of Jamaica's flagship public health institutions who are operating without full surgical capacity tonight. The central air conditioning system serving 2 operating theatres at the Kingston Public Hospital has failed, and operating theatres at the Bustamante Hospital for Children are also offline. Elective surgeries across multiple specialties have been disrupted. Patients have been contacted about rescheduling. The parts needed to repair the system are being air freighted into the island. We've now heard as well that the Southeast Regional Health Authority, SARA, is saying that the problems are linked to the hospital's aging infrastructure. Kingston Public Hospital is 250 years old. Together, KPH and the University Hospital of the West Indies serve nearly 830,000 people in the Kingston catchment alone, and function as tertiary referral centres for the entire island. Now, there are concerns that have been raised about the situation there and the postponement of these surgeries. And this has led opposition spokesman on health and wellness, Dr. Alfred Dawes, to issue a media release today, demanding what he calls an end to what he says is, quote, a patch and pray approach to surgical infrastructure. Dr. Alfred Dawes joins me now. Dr. Dawes, good evening and welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening and good evening to all the viewers.
Dr. Dawes, your release today describes a cycle that you said is happening, where there's mold discovered, cosmetic fix applied, theatres reopened for the new cycle, then theatres shut down again. Walk us through the cycle that you say is happening at our hospitals.
Last year, around this time, I raised the alarm of mold in the operating theatres. I was accused of playing political football. I was called an alarmist for using the word crisis and chastised by the minister and his surrogates. They opted to do a patchwork of a job where they painted over the mold rather than waiting until it was independently assessed by experts to say that they had correctly treated the mold infestation in the operating theatres. They should have as well fixed the AC units properly. Again, at that time, it was blamed on the aging infrastructure of the hospital itself, and we were assured that within 2 weeks, the theatres would be open. Well, they did the patchwork and the theatres are open in 2 weeks, and here we are again in the same situation, and one wonders how often this will be repeated while countless patients suffer And we speak about the catchment area for Kingston and St. Andrew, but we have to remember that all Jamaicans will inevitably end up at KPH if they fall victim to an accident or they have a technically challenging surgery that requires specialist care. So KPH serves the entire island. And as a result of the incompetence or gross mismanagement or willful blindness to the solutions that present themselves every time these matters arise, patients are suffering and some people are going to lose their lives because the cancers are going to spread before the definitive treatments can occur. Because when you're on emergency service only, you can't do elective cases. And so the old grandmother who is waiting on her hip surgery, she's going to lay down in bed and she may die of pneumonia or a clot in the months that she's waiting. So this is a serious, serious issue. We go to Bustamante where it was a similar situation. There was a lot of hullabaloo about the cancellation of the scoliosis mission. And what they did was a PR campaign curated to make it seem as if all the patients would be accommodated at UWI, but that was not the case. They never fixed the AC units at Bustamante as well. And now you have children awaiting eye surgery, orthopedic surgery, ENT surgery. They can't get those operations
but
right
Dr.
now
Dawes,
because the status are down again.
Those are two concerning situations, both at the Kingston Public Hospital and the Bustamante Hospital for Children. But the Southeast Regional Health Authority has issued a release saying the parts needed to fix the air conditioning systems are being air freighted into the island. Does that response satisfy you at this time?
They said the same thing last year. So why is it that ACs are not 250 years old? Why is it that we keep having these issues with the air conditioning units? Is it that the suppliers are not being held to account? Is it that they are not being serviced, which is the case in so many instances with other equipment? And what is the issue with the mold? Are you going to do something definitive with the mold in the operating theaters? Because last year, fixing the mold by painting over the theaters and not waiting for the report from the experts was not fixing it. What are you going to do right now?
That is a concerning situation then. That mold concern, the operating theatres now both closed. But this is also happening at two hospitals at the same time, the Kingston Public Hospital and the Bustamante Hospital for Children. They both have theatres offline simultaneously. What does that mean in practical terms for a patient who needs surgery right now and then is watching and seeing, especially with the example you gave of potential blood clots for elderly patients waiting for potential hip surgery that might not happen anytime soon?
It has a cascading effect on the entire public health system because what happens is that patients who are admitted on the wards awaiting surgery, they are going to be taking up bed space. So that means that there are less beds for admission. So you're going to be housing more patients in the emergency department, which in turn means that patients are going to be sleeping on benches and chairs. When the A&E is full, you go to almost a super emergency situation where persons are turned away to the clinics. So the clinics now will feel the brunt of the overload in patients who can't be accommodated in the emergency department. We saw just 2 weeks ago, the emergency department doctors, they went on go slow because the department was so overcrowded at KPH. And then you have the social effects for patients who can't get their surgeries. You're talking about someone who is a productive member of society awaiting an orthopedic surgery to get back to work, their hernias to fix. And of course, cancer patients, they can't get their cancer surgeries done. And as a result of that, the morbidity, mortality, the productivity of the country, the distress with families when they have to make repeated trips to hear that their surgeries are canceled. And then they have tests that are outdated. They have to repeat the test every 6 months so that they are current again for surgery. It is an emotional drain, a social drain, and a financial drain. on the individuals, their families, and on the country.
Let's then close this conversation with you, Dr. Dawes, given the concerns that have been raised, concerns that Sarah says are being addressed, but you said we've done this before. We've already spent 24 million Jamaican dollars in remediation in April of last year. And the theatres are down again. We've heard word that the KPH, because it's 250 years old, might now need to be fully replaced, with plans announced for a new facility. Is this a problem that fundamentally cannot be fixed or replaced?
We welcome the new KPH building, but as I said, air conditioning units are not 250 years old. Why is it that the ACs keep going down? That is what we have to ask. Are they being serviced? Is it a supplier issue? And why should we believe that Sarah is going to do a good job now when $24 million only bought us a year? Are we to spend another $24 million to buy us another year with equipment that was invented in the last 100 years?
Well, we'll certainly be looking to see if this situation is alleviated at the Kingston Public Hospital and the Bustamante Hospital for Children. Dr. Alfred Dawes, opposition spokesman on health, thank you so much for joining us this evening on Lead Story.
Oh, my pleasure.
Municipal Corporation is owed millions. We'll talk to them next.
Notice how life nice when you eat good. Natural feed, fresh grass, no stress. Stress? I don't know her. They say happy cows make better milk. Well, just look how happy we are. And I'm sure you can taste the difference. So move to the best milk ever. True Milk.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
At a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Jamaica's unemployment rate has fallen to 3.3%, down from 13.2% in 2016. Our government's continued focus on job creation is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The Time by the Office of the Prime Minister.
The Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation has a compliance problem. Under its signage regularization program, which ran from January to March of this year and offered businesses a 20% discount on outstanding fees, the KSAMC issued invoices totaling 34.5 million Jamaican dollars. As of early March, only 5 million had been collected. That's a collection rate of approximately 14.5%. The corporation is now deploying mobile payment outstations across plazas and commercial centres in Kingston and St. Andrew, bringing the compliance process directly to businesses. Mayor Andrew Swaby has made clear that participation in those sessions is not a substitute for compliance. Enforcement will follow. And there's a wider question as well about the limits of what the KSAMC can regulate, even as it's struggling with compliance. Because remember, just last month, a billboard promoting a product called Rude Boy Original, a herbal-flavored alcoholic beverage, appeared in Rockfort, Eastern Kingston, near a school crossing. The sign featured imagery widely described as sexually suggestive. It was removed within 24 hours of the corporation being notified. However, CEO Robert Hill described the content as, and I'm quoting what he said here, highly offensive. But the KSAMC was clear. Its mandate covers the structure, the size, the placement and location of signs, not their content. The removal was ordered because the signs had been erected in a designated sterile zone without required approval, not because of the public backlash. That distinction raises a question that's not yet been answered. In Jamaica in 2026, who regulates what goes on our billboards? Now, we are expecting to have in a few moments CEO of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, Robert Hill, as he joins us once again inside Lead Story, not only talking to us about the clearing campaign that has been put in place, but also the importance of the regularization program that has now been put in place. Given that they've had less than 15% compliance in March, it's really important for us to see what it is that the KSAMC is expecting with this new collection campaign and if businesses are looking like they'll comply. With us inside Lead Story now, we have Robert Hill, CEO of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation. Mr. Hill, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me again.
Welcome back, in fact, to Lead Story. Since last you had been here, you said you'd catch us up on not only the cleaning campaign that had happened, but also now this collection and regularization campaign. Talk to us first about the clearing of the signs, because the KSMC had been very intent on making sure that the city and the surrounding areas remained unimpeded by signs that shouldn't be in place. How'd that campaign go?
The campaign has been reasonably successful. What has happened is that we're concentrated in the halfway tree Mullines Hagley Park area. We communicated, as I would have said in our last discussion whilst I was in studio with you, we would have done all the notices, communication, public education required ahead of time before we went into enforcement. We did get around under 20% compliance and response from persons who were obligated, still are obligated, to maintain their signage fees with the KSAMC. Others who did not comply, we went on our enforcement drive starting April 1st. This has yielded some success, I would say reasonable success. There is some portion of resistance, but we understand and we continue to communicate and we continue to send the message forward and allow persons to understand what their obligations are under the signage regulations under the Planning Act. Let me say, however, that we will not relent on the enforcement side of things. So we actually have moved a little outside of the geographic zone of Halfway Tree and moving into the Manor Parks, into the Ligonese, into the Hope area, and so on. So what has happened is that we have had an increase in inquiry, an increase in compliance. We're now about 30% going up, near 40%, my team has told me. And we continue weekend after weekend to go through our data listing, cleaning the data, and then acting. In all of this, we continue to communicate and continue to educate our clients as to their obligations under this regulation.
You've discussed, though, a moment ago, what I would characterize as pushback from individuals, those who are not compliant, those who are not falling in line immediately. Why have they indicated that they're not at this time willing or even able to comply with the KSAMC, given that they have signs out there already and you're just seeking to collect?
Well, the truth be told is quite a large number of them would have said, Jordan, that they were not aware. And they're asking why is this necessary, and they're paying off taxes as it is already. But truth of the matter is we don't make the rules, we apply them based on what the law requires us to do. And both the enforcer or those responsible of us, those responsible for ensuring that the legal obligations are met, as well as our clients to ensure that their own responsibilities are kept up to date. This is where we have some conversations going on. I'm going to say that, yes, there is going to be resistance in any litigious society, but we believe, based on the numbers we're seeing and based on the feedback, that it has become more positive than it is a sort of a pushback or resistance. Because we have opened the channels of understanding, opened the channels of dialogue, the parents understand in more clear and defined ways their obligations to the KSMC as it relates to signage and advertising.
You said that you've had greater compliance. The last figures that we have publicly available talked to us said that we had on 15% of those people.
Yes.
Now that $5 million of $34.5 million in invoices issued, that only being what was collected. You're now deploying mobile payment outstations. Will those outstations succeed where letters and talking to and advertisements didn't in order to get your compliance rate up?
So what we're doing is trying to provide all options available to us, of course with certain restrictions on the Ministry of Finance, of course the Ministry of Local Government. So just like what we would have done with our property tax drives, we're also going to be doing that with the signage initiative. So what we're planning to do, the next 2 stations we're planning for are in Ligoni and in Manor Park, Constant Spring. With those areas that are heavily trafficked and heavily signed, or where signs are placed, we have started the conversations with business owners in that area. And I also want to state that the marquees or the directional signs are the responsibilities of plaza operators, plaza owners, where the individual store signs are the responsibility of the individual store owners. So I also wanted to use the opportunity to make that distinction. We're going to be putting out the notices very soon. We have already written, and we've done Clock Tower Plaza, for example, and the response there was amazing, that we were able to take the business to them and create a more convenient means by which they can comply. And they have.
So you brought it to them and you said, listen, you're apparently having a problem coming to us to meet your obligations. We'll come to you. You've seen an increase in compliance. That's important. You've named particular plazas and particular areas that you're focused on. But you've also indicated through public releases that the government ministries, departments and agencies were also people that the KSMC had to reach out to and say, hello, you need to comply with your obligations. While businesses might be able to say they didn't know they pay taxes, these ministries, departments and agencies are supposed to be doing better. How many have complied now?
Up to now, we have about 5 MDAs that have complied, my apologies.
Complied out of 5, out of how many?
It's about 1823.
A compliance rate like that then is not one that one would call successful, especially given that they are to be very aware of their obligations. What is it that you're doing for them? Because mobile compliance outstations now are not a problem for those ministries. How do you get them to comply?
I know between myself and His Worship the Mayor have written to the mayor has written to ministers of state, and I've already sent my letters to the permanent secretaries and heads of agencies. I know that we have had some inquiries in terms of what applies, what doesn't apply. If they have a sub-agency under the ministry, how is that treated? So we have straightened out those discussions as far as possible, where we have gotten calls for clarification, and we continue that push and continue that drive.
Can't have you on, Robert Hill, without asking about the drama of signs. One big sign that was in the news in May is a sign that the KSMC had to speak about, that Rude Boy original billboard that had been put up, erected in what has now been termed a sterile zone. There's a lot of discussion as to whether there's approval or not, and the KSMC has made it very clear that you regulate the placement of the signs, but not the content of the signs. Is that something that you think we should move toward, giving you responsibility as a KSMC or other municipal corporations to be able to look and say, perhaps this signage information is not appropriate, especially in this particular location?
It is correct, because what we have been looking at now, the law does not allow us to regulate content. Rather, what we do under the planning and structural regulations is looking at the placement as it relates to public safety and as it relates to how advertising is placed. However, the content is something that we're looking at to change the legislation through the necessary steps and have us now also regulate, because we do have a responsibility to the public to maintain a level of decency, decorum, and something that allows the public to ensure that the consumption is something that is not offensive. And so we're looking at that through our own legal channels, as well as the support from the Ministry of Local Government and the Ministry of Justice. We're to contact them to look at in a comprehensive and cohesive way how we address the issue of content.
All
so
right.
that is a work in progress that we're working towards.
It's certainly something that we'll be watching to see then. People blaming you for things that you're not in charge of, maybe then you need to be in charge of it if they're going to be blaming you. This is the most wonderful time, though, for the 4-year period Robert Hill football time. Do you have a World Cup team that you're supporting, just before we go?
It was Spain up until today.
Spain held in a 0-0 draw today by Cabo Verde. Not a very good look for your team, Robert Hill.
Right, exactly. The Cape Verde, which is the smallest by population and the smallest team ever in history to enter the World Cup, has held the European favourites to a 0-0 draw.
Well, that would be Curacao currently, but let me tell you something. Cabo Verde did a yeoman's job. I hope Spain does better in the competition for you, though. But Robert Hill, CEO of the Kingston and St. Andrew Municipal Corporation, thank you for being with us this evening inside Lead Story, even as a football match is currently underway. Still ahead inside Lead Story, beach access cases. 3 of them are before the courts this week. We talk about that next.
Watagwan. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 8 a.m., 1:30 p.m., and 10 p.m. on CVM TV. Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Who owns the beach? That's the question we'll be discussing now. Jamaica has 494 miles of coastline, but some argue that by some estimates as little as 0.6% is reliably accessible to the general public. Others say the figure is far greater, and this is a big hullabaloo, a storm in a teacup, if you will. Now, the law at the center of this reality is the Beach Control Act of 1956. legislation written when Jamaica was still a British Crown colony. A British holding. 4 years before independence, that bit of legislation was written. No, that's 6 years before independence. See? Let's add it together. 1962, great country. Well, Section 3, subsection 4 of that act is unambiguous. No person shall be deemed to have any rights in or over the foreshore of this island. And that's where you generally consider the beach, if you will, save as derived from or acquired under the act. In other words, Jamaicans have no inherent legal right to own their beaches. The Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, JABEM, has spent years challenging that reality in court using a different and much older piece of legislation, the Prescription Act of 1882. Section 4 of that piece of legislation holds that where a beach has been used by the public for fishing, bathing or recreation for 20 continuous years, an absolute right of public access is established. This week alone, JABEM says we're not just talking, we're going to court on this. 3 JABEM cases are before the courts. Today, the Mommy Bay prescriptive rights case is being heard in the St. Anne Parish Court. On Thursday, the corporation returns to St. Anne's Bay on the question of additional opening days for Little Duns River in Ocho Rios, a beach that has been accessible to the public for only 2 days a week since it was closed by the Urban Development Corporation in August 2022. And on Friday, they're going back. The trial for customary rights, the Blue Lagoon in Portland, begins at the Portland Parish Court. Now, let's be clear here. These matters are before the courts. Lead story, Dr. Taylor are not going to speculate on the outcomes. But what we can examine is the legal framework, the procedural landscape, and what's at stake for Jamaican communities along the coastline. Dr. Devon Taylor, president of the Jamaica Beach Birthright Environmental Movement, now joins me. Dr. Taylor, good to have you back. Good evening.
Yeah, greetings. Good to be here. Good to be here again.
3 big cases in 1 week, Dr. Taylor. Mommy Bay today, Little Duns River Thursday, Blue Lagoon on Friday. What's the significance of all 3 appearing in the same week?
Well, the Jamaican people, as you just highlighted, under the colonial level era legislation and the complicity of the Jamaican government have never afforded the Jamaican people inherent rights. So we have to take it. We have to demonstrate to the country that we do have customary rights. And so these 3 cases are all customary rights cases in which we, the people, have to prove to the powers of the country that we do, have these rights to beaches. And so, we are confident in our victory because we cannot accept anything else, right? If we do, then we'll be further dispossessed for more of the coastline. So that 0.6% that you just highlighted, it will now decrease, which is the case as the plantation tourism model expand across Jamaica. We see that we're losing more of the shoreline. And so this is what's at stake. Our rights to survive, our rights to live and thrive, and our rights to leisure.
There are those who say, though, that 0.6% underestimates areas that people can go to the beach, that they have accessible to them, that while they might not be formal beaches, there are many places for Jamaicans to go and enjoy beach areas, beach-like areas, and the waters around this country. Some who are saying that you are making this far bigger than it needs to be, and because you have been, their words, not mine, overly emphasizing this issue. It's even been caught by international press. What do you say to those who say 0.6 isn't what they have available to them? There are far more beaches available, and you're perhaps making a storm in a teacup.
We're not. The law is clear. We have no right to bathe, no right to swim, no right to walk along the foreshore, and no right to fish. So anything that we experience right now or use is by permission, and it can be taken away. And it is been taken away. And we have lived that. I have lived that. My community of Steertown have lived that. That is what the ones in the Blue Lagoon are facing. This is what the brethren them at Little Duns are facing, right? Every time a new development comes into being, we are displaced. We see now that we have Nara on the land, and we can see what folks in Parity are talking about, what is coming into Falmouth. So this is not overemphasizing anything. It is what the law This colonial law says we have no right in or over the foreshore. So whether or not we can physically go to a space today, that space may not be there tomorrow. It is the lived experience on the North Coast. It's now expanding to the South Coast. And so that is what is the reality. So those who are talking about that we are overemphasizing, why don't they change the law? Right? Why is it that they're proposing a new beach access management policy that does not give Jamaican inherent rights? They say we have qualified rights. Why they are trying to sell beaches? And why they're telling that we must pay hotel to access our beaches? Why is it that they are trying to privatize now the sea? These people need to decide if they are on the side of the Jamaican people or are they on the side of the multinational corporations and also Jamaican hoteliers who buy coastal land and then displace the Jamaican people. The lived experience of the Jamaican people is that we have no rights to beaches. And all these spaces that we use right now, they are very precarious, right? And we get kicked off them every single time this development comes into being.
That precarious situation is one that you're also highlighting on Thursday with the Little Duns River case. It's been closed to the public since August 2022, only allowing for 2 days of access. Without speaking now to the merits of the active case, what's JABM asking the court to do on Thursday?
Well, we have filed an injunction in the court, and we're saying that, 2 days for leisure is not enough for the Jamaican people, right? So we're asking the court to allow for more days so the Jamaican people can leisurely enjoy their ecological heritage. That's what we're asking, because the government only allows Saturday and Sunday. Now just imagine, you live on an island, right? You're using a space for, time in memorial. You're forever. And then, the government close it down. And we're talking about the Urban Development Corporation here and say you can only go there for 2 days. Now, this space depends state home, all the communities in and around St. Andrew, in Ocherius, Airport, Davistown, Chalky Hill, all these communities who have lost most of the coastline. All of Old Fort Bay is gone, Miami Bay is gone. They take away, all these beaches from us. We have nothing more. So we have to stand up and fight.
You don't just have one case or the 3 cases this week. If I'm correct, you have 5 active cases before the courts right now. Is this something that you believe you have to fight for through the courts, through litigation, or do you believe that the end solution to this is going to be legislative change?
It must be legislative change, and we the people have to demand it. So part of JABM mission is to build the consciousness of the Jamaican people, knowing that just like the battle for independence, right, just the battle for emancipation, we had to really stand up and defend rights. We cannot be treated as second-class citizens, in our country. It cannot be that a legislation is in our country that favors people who own coastal land and the government have the right to do whatever they want with quote-unquote crown land, right? Which is all the beaches, and sea is vested in the crown, right? So the 5 cases that we're fighting for now, and we're going to have some more cases, this year, is to really demonstrate that we the people have customary rights. Customary rights is recognized under Jamaican law. And I know that we the people have been using the foreshore for more than 20 years. That gives us that legitimate right. It's just that all these colonial laws put barriers in our way. So the barrier is that we now have to go to the court to prove our customary rights. Can you imagine that? So they have increased that, that barrier and push our people out. And so we have to fight. Now, we have lowered the barrier by saying to the Jamaican people, right, we will pay all your legal fees, right? All you need to do is to show up to say that I would like to remain on my beach, right? And this thing is not mutually exclusive to the quote-unquote plantation tourism model that we want to see abolished. Jamaicans can use the same beaches as tourists. This happened all across the Caribbean. So why is it that in Jamaica, or the political class since 1956, right, is using this legislation to really discriminate against the Jamaican
Let me push
people.
back on this for a second there, because there are some who have said that in other Caribbean countries, I'll think of, for example, Barbados, that allows for individuals, citizens to use the same beaches as tourists, that how they use the beach is different, and the cleanliness of the beaches after they use them along with tourists is different as well. Some push back saying that Jamaicans are effectively not to be trusted with these cleaned up public beaches that are set for tourists, because we just don't leave it in a condition that allows us to maintain our tourism product. Effectively, that Jamaicans are nasty. What's your response to that, Dr. Taylor?
Yeah, you know, this is the anti-blackness that comes up in many Jamaican legislation. This is the classist construct that is in Jamaica. This is something that we have to abolish. This is the thinking that comes from the plantation. Just as all the government has written in their policy that, you know, you will have qualified rights, and these qualified rights are dependent upon how you dress, how you behave, and how many of you can occupy a beach. It's the same kind of, you know, plantation thinking, anti-blackness, to say that we're nasty and we're unworthy. And that is something that we do not subscribe to, right? We, Bayesian people, all of us are the same people, right? The framing from such time until this time by the elite and by the government is to always discriminate against the Jamaican people. That is wrong, right? And that is a racist, anti-black approach to take, right? And those statements, we push back at them very hard. That is very far from being true. We, the Jamaican people, build this country. When you look at the tourism product and what it thrives upon, it is the culture. Who is the culture of the country? We, the people. It is the food. Who makes the food? We, the people. It's the beauty of the land. We are the people who made Jamaica, fought for it, defended it. So why, when it comes down to beach, we're nasty and we are unworthy of it? It's because that thinking, right, that we never came to Jamaica to enjoy ourselves. We came here to work and die, right? Is that plantation system that we need to get rid of. We see the overexploitation of our people, right, on these in these hotels. We see the degradation of the environment. We see the footprint that what these hotels are doing. That is what's wrecking beaches in Jamaica. That is what is not, you know, in the spirit of Jamaican being who we are, proud, strong, right? No, we will not subscribe to the fact that people are saying that, you know, I mean, the argument that we are dirty and nasty. No, that
thinking is going to certainly be something that you'll have to push back against as you continue to go through the courts litigating for access to beaches. Dr. Devon Taylor of JABEM, thank you for joining us this evening once again inside Lead Story. That was Dr. Taylor talking to us. Up next, the World Cup is underway. A lot of sports to be looking at. The state of play is up next.
Enjoy peace of mind in knowing that your hard-earned money is protected by the JDIC. That's right, the JDIC, through the Deposit Insurance Scheme, guarantees up to $1.2 million of your deposits in commercial banks, merchant banks, and building societies. This means your deposits, such as your savings and checking accounts, are covered. Rest easy, knowing that your deposits are secure. Your deposits, always protected. For more information, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at JDICJAM, or visit our website at www.jdic.org.
JDIC, protecting deposits for you and me.
Let's delve deep into the issues. We'll take you beneath the surface.
Greetings and salutations. My name is Orville Higgins, and it's another edition of Fan Central.
Talking to the people at the heart of the top sporting stories. Hear from your favorite sportsmen and women and the administrators who work tirelessly to make it all happen. It's live sports talk.
I've written an entire article.
Yes.
Looking at all the major issues every Tuesday at 9 p.m. It's Fan Central.
Welcome to the State of Play. Lead Story's new feature running through the editions of this show for the duration of the FIFA World Cup 2026. That's because sport is never just sport. It's economics, it's politics, it's identity. And this weekend, it was all of those things at once. Let's start with the biggest stage on earth. The FIFA World Cup 2026 is officially underway. 48 nations, 104 matches, 3 host countries, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And I'm wearing my lapel pin right now, my official FIFA lapel pin, showing all 3 of the host nations. The tournament opened on Thursday, the 11th of June at the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. The final will be played on the 19th of July at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. This is the most expanded World Cup in history. For context, in previous editions of the World Cup, 32 teams competed. This year, 48. The tournament has grown. The stakes have grown with it. And the region has a stake with CONCACAF nations. Those include us. We didn't go, but poor us. But we also have Haiti among those on the pitch this opening weekend. Now, as we started this segment, I was just about to say to you the current match that's playing right now, Saudi Arabia against Uruguay, had Saudi Arabia scoring 1 goal, Uruguay none. Well, just as we began this segment, finally Uruguay scored. We've been seeing big teams toppled, and we have now Saudi Arabia 1, Uruguay 1. But over the weekend, on Saturday, June 13, we have Qatar and Switzerland. That was a 1-all draw. Switzerland was expected to take that. Too bad, so sad. Qatar held them off with a disciplined play during that game. Brazil and Morocco, woo! Jamaicans, who are half Brazilian at this point in time. Well, that Brazil-Morocco match ended 1-all. Brazil won, Morocco won. Morocco cheering why they are world number 7 and matching Brazil stride for stride in that match. Haiti 0, Scotland 1. Our neighbors to the north made their play at the World Cup, showing a gritty performance, leading though them to be down 1-0. Australia and Turkey, well, Australia 2 goals, Turkey 0. And Australia surprised everyone. They're in the same group as Paraguay and the United States. And the United States had a masterclass on Friday. So we're watching to see then how Australia and the United States match up. Yesterday, Sunday, Germany 7. Curacao won. And if you saw Curacao after, you believe that Curacao won that match. Curacao making their way to the World Cup for the very first time, scoring 1 goal. Germany, 7 whole goals. If you are a fan of Brazil, that 7 might make you nervous. Don't worry about it, though. Not against you this time. Netherlands and Japan, 2-all. Netherlands 2, Japan 2. It was the match of the weekend. It was There was a back and forth, a up and down. A lot happened there. The first African team to win this weekend was the Ivory Coast, Côte d'Ivoire. They won against Ecuador in Group E. It was a really rough match, but you're watching that. You're seeing the back and forth. That was exemplary. And we're learning from many people where on the map these countries are, and then seeing what the political drama is in these countries. It really is a lead story, especially our global lead on show. Sweden 5, Tunisia 1. And Tunisia's 1 goal came before all of Sweden. So they looked impressive. They didn't come out before all of Sweden, but they looked like they were catching back up. It didn't work out, but Tunisia had no answer to a very dominant second half. Now, today, every day, yeah, football play. My bag actually is a World Cup bag. I'll probably show you tomorrow. This is my most wonderful time of every 4 years. And today we started off with Spain and Cabo Verde. You heard Robert Hill saying Spain was his team. They didn't do so well against Cabo Verde. That's Cape Verde, 0-all in today's Group H match. You could dominate possession a little more. If you don't score, you don't win. Belgium there 1-0 with or rather 1-1 with Egypt. Also a very surprising end result there. Egypt had scored first. They looked like they were going to be keeping the entire time there. So we saw all of that, and that is what many people are looking at right now, this global sport. But other things happened as well. So we have that Saudi Arabia and Uruguay match 1-1, and then later on tonight in Group G we'll have Iran and New Zealand. So this is a time where you stay up late, allow your children to stay up late as well, and watch football. Now, to basketball. The New York Knicks are the 2026 NBA champions. Game 5 of the NBA Finals on Saturday night had the Knicks 94, San Antonio Spurs 90. And the series result means that the Knicks win 4 games to the Spurs 1. Now, what does that mean? The Knicks entered these finals as the 3rd seed. The Spurs were the 2nd. They had eliminated the Oklahoma City Thunder in a 7-game Western Conference final. And New York, a franchise that had waited decades for this moment, dispatched them in 5. Jamaica, we're enough as well, because we were part of that too. New York is one of the largest Jamaican diaspora communities in the entire world, with Madison Square Gardens long being considered a home for Caribbean fans. Well, they were celebrating all weekend, and they're continuing that celebration today. Then, from the hardwood of basketball to the F1 circuit. Sir Lewis Hamilton has won his first Grand Prix for Ferrari. And I was offline yesterday, so I missed that as it happened live, but I cried. This is Lewis Hamilton driving for his previous team, Mercedes. Well, yesterday in red for the first time at the Barcelona-Catalonia circuit in Spain, he took the checkered flag in a 3-stop strategic masterclass, beating the Mercedes' George Russell into 2nd and McLaren's Lando Norris into 3rd. What does that mean? Those are the other 2 teams he used to drive for, Mercedes and McLaren. And it was Lewis Hamilton's 106th career win. As of 106th career Grand Prix win, his first in 686 days, his first in Ferrari colours. After more than a season of winning, at 41 years old, he is now the oldest Formula One winner since Jack Brabham in 1970. And then you had our all-British podium there with Hamilton, George Russell and Lando Norris giving that to them as well. But Lewis Hamilton is the only black Formula One world champion in the history of the sport. And so his journey, for Jamaicans especially, from Stevenage in the United Kingdom to 7 world titles to this moment in red, is one that resonates deeply across the African diaspora, including here in Jamaica. And finally, the West Indies! Cricket! The West Indies were in a T20 series against Sri Lanka. The first match of that series was played right here in Jamaica at Sabina Park on Thursday, the 11th of June. The West Indies won by 7 wickets. Captain Shai Hope anchored the chase with an unbeaten 65 off 54 balls. Powell sealed it with a 6. Game 2 happened on Saturday. Too bad, so sad, because Sri Lanka came back and leveled the series, winning by 37 runs. Their spinners dismantling the West Indian middle order. Well, the 3rd game was today. The T20I was played today. A deciding match at Sabina Park delivered a grandstand finish, with the West Indies securing a hard-fought 5-wicket victory to claim the series 2-1. And it's after winning and the toss and electing to field. We restricted them to 169 all out in their 20 overs. The star of the innings was fast bowler Shamar Joseph, who dismantled the visitors with a brilliant maiden T20I 5-wicket haul. I tell you all of that because sport matters, and the intricacies between the countries, the kind of backstories, what it is that we are seeing with all the countries, learning about places, becoming more aware of what happens inside their country is what sport brings us. Lead Story thought that understanding the state of play is important, because while we bring you these stories about what's happening inside each of these countries, it's also important for you to understand how emotional this is for so many of them. Now, let's recap the show before we close, because at the Kingston Public Hospital, That's where we started the show. The air conditioning has failed, and the operating theatres, they're shut. At the Busmanti Hospital for Children, the same. The government says parts are being air freighted, the opposition, and we spoke with opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes earlier, says it's the same crisis, the same pattern, same inadequate response. What's not in dispute is this, though. A 250-year-old institution is being held